Hello children, today we are going to do one poem, okay, and this is by Dorothy Aldis. It is about a squirrel, though the title of the poem is not given, okay, but when we read the poem, when we recite it together, you will come to know that it is about a very small young squirrel who is running for its life, probably attacked by someone or some other animal, and this little girl takes it home, saves it, and helps it to grow up. Alright, now this poem, as I said, is written by Dorothy Aldis. I'll just speak a little about Dorothy Aldis. She is an American author, and she was an author plus poet, and her work mainly surrounded around children's literature, right? In fact, it is said that at her home, she had 4 children, and there was so much of chaos around that she would actually take her typewriter, go to the park, and there she would type her own work, and so that there is a little peace. Okay, and that is how she created so many masterpieces. All right, now this poem we are going to read together. He ran out of the woods to me, little and furry and panting with fright. I offered a finger just to see, and both of his paws held on to it tight. He ran out of the woods to me. So this squirrel is a he, okay? It's a male squirrel, and it ran out of the woods to me. It came out of the forest and it was running towards me, little and furry and panting with fright. That means it was a very small and tiny one, and it was it was furry. That means full of fur, and panting with fright. That means it was breathing heavily. When you run, what happens? You seem breathless. So same way, the squirrel was breathless and was with fright. That means very scared, very, very afraid. I offered a finger just to see, So it was so tiny that this little girl offers a finger, and both of his paws held to it tight. That means the squirrel comes and holds the finger with its 2 tiny paws. That means this girl is giving a refuge, or the poet is giving a refuge, a shelter, or a kind of assurance that you are safe with me to the tiny squirrel. And the tiny squirrel also accepts it. Was it dogs that had scared him? So the poet is asking, was it a dog that that scared him, that he was so afraid of? A crashing limb? Oh my God! I waited a while, but there wasn't a sign of his mother coming to rescue him. So then I decided he was mine. So what happened? The poet waits for a while, if the squirrel's mother comes, to get it back, but there was no sign at all. So now what does she do? She takes it home and considers that small squirrel to be her pet henceforth. I lifted him up, and he wasn't afraid to ride along in the crook of my arm. Where does she place this small tiny squirrel? At near the elbow, at the crook of my arm. Okay, where the squirrel also felt warm and safe. A very fine place, he thought, just made for keeping me comfortable, safe and warm. Okay, so the squirrel also felt very secured. The squirrel also felt warm and comfortable in that cozy arm. At home he seemed happy to guzzle his milk out of an eyedropper 6 times a day. Now remember, the squirrel is very, very young, very, very small. So, and who is very used to the mother's milk. But here, how would little girl feed him, you know, he with an dropper, okay, with an eyedropper. 6 times a day she would feed the squirrel with milk. We gave him a pillow of damask silk, and where would he lay down? On a pillow which was, or a cushion which was of damask silk, or which had a covering of a rich silk covering, on which he would royally lay. That means where he would sleep peacefully, royally lay like a king. He would sleep soundly after every meal. Remember the small squirrels or small dogs, if you've seen, they sleep for a long time. Or a small baby, they sleep almost 18 hours a day. So here also, after every meal, after every feed, the small squirrel would go to its bed. And what was the bed made of? Of damask silk. It was a pillow that was covered with a rich silk cover. He frisked on the carpet, he whisked up the stairs. Slowly and gradually, when the squirrel gets comfortable with the new home, what does he do? He frisked on the carpet. That means he would just roam around, run around. He whisked up the stairs and climbed up the stairs very fast. If you have seen a squirrel, its movement is very swift, it's very fast. So he is growing up, where he played with some soap till it made him sneeze. He loved it, exploring tables and chairs, and he climbed up the curtain exactly like trees. Okay, so he would have fun at home because he was not in the woods, he was at home. So at the poet's home, he would explore the place. You know, he would see each and everything by climbing up the table, by climbing up the chair, and the curtains were not even spared. We watched his fuzzy grey stomach swell. He grew until he could leave a dent in the pillow in which he would sleep so well. And then, oh, then one morning he went. Slowly and gradually the small squirrel became big or full size. How do you know that? His fuzzy grey stomach swell, you know, it became round. And he grew until he would leave a dent in the pillow in which he would sleep so well. So earlier the squirrel was very light. So even if it slept on the pillow, there would not be any dent. You know, a dent that is like a, you know, when you sleep on a pillow, you leave behind a kind of a curve or a dent. So that is what. Now the squirrel has grown up, it has become heavy. So it is leaving behind its impression on the pillow. And then one morning it just disappeared. Okay. Or then one morning he went. He disappeared. You know, he totally vanished. Perhaps a squirrel around the place adopted him. Oh, we are certain it's true. For once a little looking down face seemed to be saying, "How do you do?" That means he's very the poet is very happy that, you know, the squirrel has gone back to his own habitat. But at the very same time, whenever she comes across any squirrel, and they all look very alike, right? So whenever she comes across any squirrel, she feels that maybe this is the squirrel who has been adopted by another mother squirrel. And it seems that, you know, that squirrel is looking back to her and greeting her. How do you do? That means as if they know each other. There is a certain kind of bonding that has been created from one squirrel to the whole squirrel family.